Hello, everyone. My name is Joshua Wong, and today I will be presenting our work entitled Contemplative Interactions, exploring the use of defamiliarization in a serious game to promote reflective thinking about personal health. This work is a collaboration with Foong from the National University Health System of Singapore and Alex Mitchell from the National University of Singapore. Globally, chronic diseases such as diabetes and cardiovascular disease are on the rise. A lot of this rise is due to the increase in unhealthy lifestyle habits of people, such as lack of exercise, sedentary lifestyles, changing dietary patterns, and so forth. Even though we know these are major problems, it is often very difficult for people to change their personal health habits without outside help. Trained health and lifestyle coaches are effective at tackling this problem, but they are often expensive and limited by cost and availability of personnel. So is there a scalable digital solution that can help us overcome these barriers of limited resources? Now, in the trans-theoretical model of change, which is commonly used in the field of health behavioral change, there are 5 steps to the change process. Firstly, pre-contemplation, which is when the person has not even considered change or is unaware of the problem behavior. Then there is contemplation, where they begin to consider the possibility of change and its pros and cons. Then there comes preparations to make a change, taking action to enact that change, and finally maintenance to keep up the change behavior until it becomes a new lifestyle. Most of the digital solutions for health behavior change have focused on the latter 3 stages, using tracked behavior, such as diet or exercise trackers, to help people make changes to their lives. There are relatively few which focus on the first 2 stages, trying to motivate people who have low awareness or low intrinsic motivation to contemplate change. But that's what we're going to be focused on. We draw on previous work done in fields of motivational interviewing, which is a methodology that has proven successful before at helping people change health habits, as well as work on serious games and interactive narratives, which can be an engaging way to encourage behavior change and provoke insights into life situations. Some key insights that are derived from our literature review were the following. In motivational interviewing, it was important to help people reevaluate values associated with problem behavior. Also, to elicit from them or to help them clarify their personal life goals, and then connect those life goals to the advantages or disadvantages of change. The main idea is to help clients find their own reasons for change. In serious games and interactive narratives, we draw on 2 concepts. The idea of defamiliarization, which involves disturbing the categorization process of routine thoughts or behavior. In other words, to break down routine thoughts by introducing a new element that requires them to reflect. And then there is poetic gameplay, which involves changing the normal actions a player can do in a game, or the kind of feedback the game gives, into something that is unfamiliar in order to call the player's attention to issues in the game's content. So our research question, therefore, is this. How can defamiliarization and poetic gameplay be used to design narratively focused serious games in order to promote contemplation about a player's personal reasons for health? Our research through design was split into 2 phases. In the first phase, we explored several different ways of implementing poetic gameplay, 3 of which are shown here, using all undesirable choices, giving players ineffectual agency, and changing the goals such that winning is losing. For example, in the design exploration of winning is losing, we created a prototype where players had to build a dam using rocks to block off a river. Upon succeeding, we then changed the metaphor on the players, and it was revealed that what they were doing was using cholesterol and fatty foods to block off blood flow in an artery. However, we decided that this design direction was too problematic, as it imposed our own values on what winning and losing is onto the player, instead of eliciting from them their values. From our design explorations, we learned 3 things. First, that choosing between non-ideal choices can promote a deeper re-evaluation of each choice. Second, that the presence of a goal might promote reconsideration of the value of each choice. And third, that we as designers have to be careful not to impose our own values onto the players. All this fed into the second phase, where we designed a serious game to provoke people into contemplation of health choices. This game was called Family Priorities. In the game, players took on the role of a 55-year-old widowed housewife caring for her 2 adult children and her grandson. Players would be presented with scenarios where they had to make choices that would affect the health and happiness of the different family members. After they had made choices, there will be visible feedback on their choices presented to them in the form of text comments and facial expressions by their family members, as well as changes to the meters that tracked health and happiness of each member. In the design of this game, we deliberately incorporated the following features. First, there were no perfect choices. Every decision had both negative and positive consequences, so there had to be trade-offs made. Secondly, we tried to offer authentic, complex scenarios that reflected the multifaceted nature of health decisions that are made in context. Thirdly, we tried to foreground longer-term values. Halfway through the game, the players would be presented with a choice of possible life goals that their character might have. After they had chosen a long-term goal, a new indicator would appear, which showed how many years left they had to continue pursuing that goal before they grew too old. Our methodology involved testing this game with 15 participants, 9 males and 6 females. All of them were aged 40 and above, all with some experience of health risk factors, such as high blood pressure or cholesterol issues. Not all of them were taking these health risks seriously. We recorded videos of the screen while participants played the game, then conducted a semi-structured interview with them, getting them to answer questions about their thought process even as they watched the video of their playthrough. In this test, we had asked participants to play through the game once, then they were asked whether they would like to replay or not, and then they would play a second time, this time with the screen indicator tracking their long-term goal visible from the start. The results were quite varied and fruitful, but in the interest of saving time, I will just share a couple of the more important ones. If you wish to see the full results, please do read through the paper. When we looked at how participants responded to the design feature of having no perfect choices, we observed that participants felt initially frustrated, then started generating options and ideas outside of the given choices. Some of them also drew upon their own life experiences to decide which trade-offs were best to make in any given scenario. So for this feature, we found that quite a number of participants started exhibiting dialogic reflection, which is a type of reflective thinking where people start to look for connections between different pieces of experience. In this case, between the scenarios, the choices offered, and their own life experiences. On the other hand, for the feature where we foregrounded longer-term values, there were more mixed outcomes. Some players were making habitual choices, but then after the revelation of a longer-term goal and upon the second playthrough, they started to reconsider their choices in light of the goal. However, other participants did not identify with any of the life goals provided for the game character, and so were resistant to choosing priorities that did not match their own life experiences. In general, we found that our current implementation of the longer-term values was somewhat flawed. By presenting a fixed list of life goals to the players to choose from, instead of letting players write their own, this may have impacted the players' ability to connect the longer-term values to their own health situations. Thus, there was no transformative reflections present. So in conclusion, we explored how to promote contemplative thinking about personal reasons for health change. We explored a variety of poetic gameplay devices, resulting in a serious game that we then evaluated with 15 players. What we found was that the most productive approach appears to be offering the players limited, imperfect choices, which stimulated them into demonstrating different kinds of reflective thinking. However, more work will need to be done to connect longer-term values to good implementations to support the processes of behavior change. Thank you for listening to my presentation, and if you have any further questions, please do feel free to contact any of us or to read up on the paper to find out more. Thank you.